All right, here we go. These are your variables that we created, and we're checking them for normality. That is the first assumption. The data has to fit a normal data set before we can use the independent t-test. And unfortunately, it did not. Hold on. And this is how we tell. We're going to use the Kolmogorov-Shmurda test. And if this sig value is less than 0.05, that means that the data did violate normality. In other words, if this number is less than 0.05, this variable is not normal. So memory no, teach, effective, easy, none of them are normal. And the same with the cognitions, none of them are normal. In fact, very few are normal. Looks like compensation and effective is, as compensation easy is. And there's a borderline one, metacognitive, easy is barely. But again, most of these are not normal. So probably we're not going to be using a t-test. Okay, that's part one. Part two. All right, so we're going to run the t-test anyway, just to see what the results are. And then this is our table of the group means, by EFL and ESL. So for your first variable, memory no, the average for the EFL guy was 4.1197, and the ESL guys, it was 3.86. So there was a little difference there, right? But we're going to go down to the t-test to find out if the difference was significant. So down to the t-test box. That's this bad boy here. Now, these first two columns are checking the second assumption needed for a t-test. That's what we call equality of variance. In other words, the variance, the spread of the data for each variable between the EFL guys should be relatively the same for the ESL guys. Say that again. The variance between the group for each one of these variables should be relatively the same. And if this sig value is less than 0.05, that means that it violated that assumption. So I'm looking here that none of these violated that assumption, which is good. So that means all of your variables, most of them violated normality, but they did not violate the assumption of homogeneity variance, which is good. Okay, so you still might be able to get away with using a t-test. So here comes the money. This is your sig value for the t-test. There's the t-test statistic, right? And what that literally means is the difference between your memory no scores for the EFL and the memory no scores for the ESL was 1.675 standard deviations away from each other, which is pretty good, but it's not significantly different. And unless this number, the sig value right here, is less than 0.05, then there's not a significant difference. So this sig value is a two-tailed test, which means that you're not picking EFL over ESL or ESL over EFL. It means that you don't know which side will be higher and lower. So again, if this sig value is less than 0.05, that means you have a significant difference between your EFL scores and your ESL scores. Now this one is 0.07. That's kind of close to 0.05. You might be able to get away with what we call borderline significance. But ask Dr. Kelch about that, okay? Because this is close to 0.05. So, but let's scroll down here and find one that's less than 0.005. There's one right here. So compensation, no. There was a significant difference between the EFL and the ESL, right? Same with compensation teach and compensation effective. Again, it's kind of borderline, it's kind of small, but it was definitely for compensation easy. So I'm looking at the compensation ones, and they're basically all significantly different. Now, with that in mind, we're going to go back up to the mean table, and we're going to look at the cognitive ones. I'm sorry, it was compensation? Was it compensation or cognitive? It was compensation. So there was a difference in compensation. And it shows me that the EFL guys were significantly higher in every category. So there was a significant difference in basically all four of the the compensation scores, with the EFL guys having the higher number. Okay, let's keep looking. And So there's compensation. Yep, you had some there. Metacognitive effectiveness, borderline. It was relatively close that the difference was significant. But now we're at effective, significantly different. In effective, no. Teach. Effective, I misspelled effective there, sorry. So there was a significant difference in the effective scores too. So let's go up to the effective scores and see who was high and who was low. So the EFL guys thought that the effective was significantly higher in every one of those, okay? So that's what I'm seeing. The EFL, they have higher significant points. Their scores are significantly higher than the ESL guys for compensation, for effective, and a couple of these little weird ones down here. No. Here's one. Social. They're significantly different. Effectives are all different. We got that one. And that's about it. Those are your big two. Yeah, so the only one there's a significant difference is, right, this is the significance column right here. So if the number here is less than 0.05, which this one is, that means there was a significant difference in social effective scores between your two groups. So once you know there's a significant difference there, you scroll back up to the means tables, and then there's your social, I forget which one it was. So social effective, and this one is different. This one says the ESL are significantly higher than the EFL. Right? So for this one, we know there's a significant difference because the t-test tells us so down below. And then we look at the means, but the ESL is higher than the EFL. Where your other tests, it was different. The EFL guys were all higher than your ESL guys. Let me check for another odd one. Hold on. So let me say that again. For metacognitive effectiveness, the ESL guys were borderline significantly higher than their EFL counterparts.
Okay.